Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Zazo. I'm the Vice President of Student Government. Just wanted to thank you all for being at our town hall. I'm going to be filling in for Alex, our president, as he is fallen sick today. But we should be able to keep things on track. Thank you for passing around the sign-in sheet and signing through on that. Want to start off with just an introduction and to the student council and our roles once again. And then we're going to move on to, back by popular demand, our icebreaker, which is what was your favorite food that you've had over the Thanksgiving break? So I'll start. Michael Zazo, Vice President. I had a very good mac and cheese over this Thanksgiving break, so that's what I had. Pass it on over.
Nick Thomasmo, I'm the Communications Director, and favorite. That's hard. I had 3 pieces of pie. Which one was the best? The pecan pie.
Yes, thank you.
You guys enjoyed your holiday?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Ashley, working student life, and I'm the advisor to Student Gov. Favorite food over holiday? Probably toast and jam, nothing special, but I just don't get hype about I eat like normal, so. So, yeah, toast and just a new jam that I have, great.
What kind of jam?
It was orange peel and elderberry flour jam marmalade.
That sounds good.
Are we all introducing ourselves?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Michaela, I'm the president of the geology club here. Let's say, I love the cranberry, it wasn't sauce, it was like the gelatin version of it, and it had actual cranberries in it. Also, but I love the cranberry, whatever it is, mixture that they always do.
Yum.
Nice.
I'm Yasmina, and I'm the vice president of the geology club. My favorite food that I had over the break was that's hard. That's really hard. I made mini pumpkin pies. They were like really small. They were fun to make and good to eat.
Awesome.
My name is CJ. Well, my name is Marshall. I like to be called CJ. I'm the secretary for Black African Student Union. My favorite thing that I had over a holiday break was probably the turkey that I made. So I think the
Nice.
turkey was fine.
Very good. It came out all right and everything?
It came out great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
My name is Terry, I'm the president of the Lift Club, Lifting Club. I have to say, I'm originally from back east, Massachusetts, Dorchester area. But our tradition is we put oysters in the stuffing. It's not a thing here in Michigan, it's more of a Northeast thing, but it was nice to have relatives come over. And our cranberry sauce is a little different too. We use, a bit of lime and with real cranberries, nothing out of a jar. But it's just a nice experience, eating, like a bit of your, heritage and home away from home. So it was nice.
Nice.
I'm Sandra, I'm the president of the Geography Honor Society. And I guess the best thing I ate over the weekend, had a little bit of a mom party. And we had a flight of fondues, dessert fondues, we had chocolate, white chocolate champagne and caramel fruit and all kinds of stuff.
That sounds awesome.
My name is Spencer. I'm the president of the Lids Club. Best thing I had over the break, I didn't really have any traditional Thanksgiving food either. I had some blueberry pancakes that were pretty good, so. Yeah,
Very nice.
My favorite kind of pancake.
I know, right?
They're great.
I run out of blueberries though, so I gotta use my strawberries pretty soon.
And then I'm Zoe, president of Standout, and my favorite food was probably the green bean casserole.
Mhm.
Do we want to ask anybody on the online if they have want to introduce themselves?
Hi, it's Katya from Psi Beta. I'm a little sick today, so I didn't come in person. I guess I like the corn dip my aunt made over Thanksgiving. It was good. I don't know.
Alrighty. Well, thank you. And sorry you're not feeling well. I hope you feel better soon. And then, are we good to move on?
I had a question.
Go for it.
I didn't, I was sick the last time I mean, so I can remember, but what happened to the, I always forget his name, the big guy in the hat that's usually up here?
Big guy in the hat.
Yeah, he's like one of the chairs.
Alex, I think.
Alex is up today.
Yeah, oh, okay, that's.
Oh,
fine.
okay.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's Alex, I was forgetting his name, thank you.
With all that out of the way, gonna move on to just a couple really quick updates from student government, for this week. The first one is that, by popular demand, hearing back from your feedback, we brought the suggestion box. It's here, it's in the room. You can fill out your suggestions. And also, if you want a bit more anonymity or anything like that, we're gonna be working on a permanent spot either in the student life office or in the hallway of the student life building, where you can come and submit your messages and feedback for student government whenever you want. This will be an ongoing thing. We're gonna check this thing weekly and we're gonna make sure that we review all of your feedback and we do what we can to help support you better. So that's done and done. The next announcement we have is that we presented at the Board of Trustees meeting last Monday. Me and Alex were in attendance and Alex spoke. Alex talked about working with Swipe Out Hunger to bring legislative action to ending hunger on campus and hunger for people who are indisposed. And in addition to that, we talked about the potential increasing of the campus activities fee. That's an ongoing conversation we're having. There's a lot of moving parts in that, and that's actually the main topic of our conversations on campus. So we'll get to that and we'll hear your feedback in just a moment on that. Past that, one of our town halls for February the 12th of next semester is going to be held at the Lakeshore campus. We're going to be signing in remotely and we're still going to be holding it in this room. You'll just be tuning in online and seeing us up there as we held it at the Lakeshore campus to give our Lakeshore students a bit more representation. Yes,
This will be on which day?
February 12th.
Thanks.
And then final big announcement, a lot of people were asking for budget training, and we finished developing that. Sheena put a lot of hard work into that. And starting next semester, where budget training is going to be mandatory for all clubs submitting allocation requests. There's a presentation called So You Want to Spend Some Money that's in your student org folder on Raider Connect. And it takes roughly 10 minutes to go through the entirety of that short presentation, get all of that information that a lot of you have been asking about how the budget works, what can you get budgets for, how do you start fundraising, all those questions that we've been like, we'll get back to you, or we didn't have a great answer. We have that for you, and Sheena is available in Student Life to answer any additional questions. But after you complete that, there's a short little 5 or 6 question test, and once we see that you've completed that, we check your name off and you can submit allocations as normal. This will be something that doesn't affect anything for the remainder of the semester, but something we want to get in front of. Your treasurer or your president of your org should, at the very minimum, be the one completing that. But as many people as you can get from your org to complete that, we would recommend. So with that out of the way, we're going to move on to the treasurer's report and our allocation requests for today. This is another thing we added thanks to the feedback, but we're going to start with the treasurer's report when we get into allocation requests, and we're going to give you that running total for how much is left in the campus activities fee every week. So you know how much is there for additional transparency. So that total amount right now is $14,763.73. And that's the remaining budget for the year, or for the remainder of this semester and next semester, to be specific. And with that being said, we have one allocation request from the International Geographical Honor Society for $13,875.22. This is for their trip to the American Association of Geographers annual meeting. Is the club in question present for that?
Okay.
Yes. So would you like to go into a bit more detail about that and explain to the group about the allocation request and mainly why it's so much?
I believe in his request for funding, Dr. DeVivo outlined a number of, the estimated costs for the trip, including conference registration, field trips in conjunction with the conference, meals, lodging, airfare, and estimated for airport parking and airport transportation. We believe that this is the top amount that we would need, but there are certainly ways that we can reduce costs. Would you prefer that I talk about the conference or our cost reduction strategies?
Just, I guess, like, talk about the cost of the conference, how many students are going, like, just give us some more information about what exactly it is, because we have the information report, but this is, because of the size of this is open to the whole floor to vote
Right.
on.
Okay.
So you basically have to inform
All right.
everybody if you can.
Okay, this is for 2 geography students to attend. The Student Life has funded GTU conference participation every year since 2009, except during COVID. And the first AAG meeting was attended in 2010 by Amanda Colgrove, who subsequently was awarded scholarships to complete BA and MA degrees, and later became an official in the state of Minnesota to help combat human trafficking. The students who have participated in these conferences have gone on to be quite successful. While attending the East Lakes Conference, which is a smaller division, the AAG conference that we're requesting funding for is the national conference. It is the most important geography conference in the world. I attended the East Lakes Conference, which was for Michigan and Ohio just a couple of weeks ago. And I was able to experience firsthand the importance of attending these meetings. I was able to meet a number of notable geographers from universities in Ohio and Michigan, including the department head at Western Michigan and a potential graduate advisor. I was able to pitch my dissertation idea and get feedback for presentation improvement. After presenting my paper on redlining in Grand Rapids, I won first place, beating out students from U of M, MSU, Ohio State, and Kent State. I was also awarded a $1,000 travel grant for this conference coming up in 2024. And I was one of only 20 undergraduate students in the nation to receive this. I was also invited by faculty at GVSU to speak as a guest lecturer on redlining in the fall. This is the 4th time in 6 years that a GRCC student has won this conference. And I think it really speaks to the vigor of the geography program here at GRCC. The reason why the costs are so much, if you were to look at the breakdown of prices, lodging is number 1. It's a week-long conference, and airfare is also quite expensive. Both of those, we estimate that we can reduce the cost on. As I said, I received a travel grant, so already the amount requested is reduced. Annika and I are both actively working to apply for other travel grants and participate in, paper competitions to receive more. Let's see. The AAG Community College Travel Grant, that's another one. It's not guaranteed, but that would reduce costs as well. And meals, the amount allocated for meals, we believe that we can reduce this amount by about 25% or more because the AAG conference itself is committed to reducing student costs because they want undergraduate students there because it is such an important part of a student's education. So we believe that we can reduce that amount by 25%. And we do have other strategies that we can employ. But this was I guess, the top amount that we were requesting.
Did you talk with Sheena in Student Life or ask the college for any help with the planning or the funding of this?
I believe Dr. DeVivo was the one who initially made the request. I'm quite new in this position. And I haven't received any emails yet about attending student town hall meetings. But he made the request and, what was the rest of the question?
Oh, just have you met with Sheena to help with the planning for airfare travel or anything like that? Because there are guidelines that have to be met with the college about that, and they can oftentimes help reduce prices of specific things based on like preferred airline travel and stuff like that.
I don't
So,
know if he has met with her. I do know that the AAG is also partnering with Delta and American Airlines and Alaska Airlines. For better rates as well as better hotel rates. But I don't know if he has met with her yet.
You said her budget was, roughly, a little over $14,000, the remainder, they're correct, previously. So, that being said, this would be depending on, cost reduction or anything, find out lower rates would be occupancy, airfare, all the other expenses. Wouldn't that be roughly almost 90% of our budget?
Yeah.
Of our budget?
so if this allocation request were to go through, we'd have less than $900 left in the budget
Right.
for all remaining clubs.
And I'm
for the
not trying
remainder
to
of the
take
year.
anything away from the importance of it or anything like that, but I just thought that should be kind of highlighted. Is that, I mean, that was, and that's just that's one club.
Yeah.
So the rest of the clubs basically wouldn't have, really couldn't advocate for anything else for the remainder of the fiscal year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so it's just something to consider.
Yeah, I also want to add, this seems like a huge portion of the budget for like 2 students. And like, especially for like the rest of the year, like for us to only have $900 to divvy up between all the other clubs here. That's not much. That's not giving us a whole lot of wiggle room.
Where is it?
It's being held in Honolulu in 2024.
You mentioned in the breakdown outline, when you specifically talked about the reduction of costs and the steps that you had to take if this money wasn't awarded. In your third step, that there was going to be fundraising through sales with Faces of African Wildlife calendars. I was just curious why the club in question, especially knowing how big of a deal this event was, didn't start fundraising earlier than, like, have you started fundraising at all yet?
The fundraising is dependent on the sales of calendars, which have to actually be made first for the 2024 year ahead. So that's in progress now. It's something that's done every single year for CAMFed. Typically, all of that money goes towards supporting the education of African girls, but legally, we are allowed to use a portion of those proceeds to fund GTU activities.
And aside from that one specific thing, has there been any talks or plans with the club to start other fundraising events before this? Or before bringing such a large request to the allocation request board at town hall?
Well, Annika and I we're both continuing education students.
Mm.
So we don't have an abundance of time to devote to typical fundraising activities, which is why we've been focused more on our academics and attending these more local presentations like the one that I attended, because we do win monetary awards for that, like I did. So that's where our focus has been, because it's improving our education as well as raising funds for the trip coming up.
Sure. Did you have anything, Nick, or?
I don't have any questions. The allocation request is very thorough. It's 6 or 7 pages, so I know you guys can't
I,
see it,
but
but
I may
I,
ask, I have an additional question.
Yeah.
You said, about, trying to, reduce, expenses. And what areas and, like just estimated ballpark, and what was your, how much would that be? Best, best guess estimate.
We've estimated
It's a
that,
pretty significant allocation, like, we would all agree to that, we would all agree to that.
yes,
I mean, that's almost the entire budget, and that leaves all the other clubs with, virtually not much.
we have estimated that, if we were able to reduce these costs, that, 9,914 would be, we could get the trip down to $9,914.
That'd be like the lowest, probably, possibly, the best case scenario.
Yes.
Okay, so that's still pretty significant, at least it's lesser, but still kind of significant.
So
Thank you.
I have a question as well. If you could get it down to $9,000, why isn't the allocation request reflecting that?
Well. Don't go.
This was, that 9,914 were after taking a number of these strategies, cost reduction strategies, which would, include the camp bed sales, requesting the cost of the parking to be covered by, GRCC Social Sciences Department, staying at a hotel that is almost 2 miles away, which would require an hour of walking each day. But it is a worthy investment for us, to do that. And also putting in our own personal money towards this. Now, again, I need to reiterate that Annika and I are both continuing education students, so we don't have a very large disposable income. We both have families that we're caring for. And so we have associated childcare costs. So that's why we can't just plunk down a big amount of money to attend this. Which is why we made the initial request higher.
So, and remind me again, what exactly is so important about this conference? Like what exactly does it do?
This conference helps us, it helps us in our path towards graduate school and finishing. When we started out at GRCC, we were both on financial assistance and thinking that the associate's degree would be the end game. And then our eyes were sort of open to all that the geography department had to offer us. And I went on to get a scholarship to finish my undergraduate degree. These conferences are really about learning about the field, being immersed. It's almost like language immersion, being immersed in the field that you are studying and making connections and networking with people in the field to help further your educational journey. And like I said, when I went to the East Lakes Conference, I was able to meet so many, in just a short period of time, I was able to meet a number of very important people who could help me continue on. And the AAG conference, the national one, is the most important geography conference in the world, which means that we will be able to sort of hone in on our specialty groups at this conference, make more connections, and kind of finish.
So it doesn't necessarily guarantee you scholarships, it's just about networking and advice,
Right.
kind of a thing.
That's what I was gonna say, it just seems like some, and I don't like discount the significance of the conference. You know, and as you said, it's, you know, it's probably, you know, like the major one of all, not, you know, too up on geology. But the thing is, other clubs may view it as like we're financing, you know, your network opportunity. With almost our entire budget, I mean, that, I'm just saying, maybe view that way.
Well, students who come in first, as I did a couple of weeks ago, are given awards
Right.
and grants.
Right, but that's different from student buddy funding, because that's two different financial, you know, those grants are given through a different, you know, through a different division than what we have in our budget here.
I understand what you're saying. I would question though, however, other allocation requests for field trips that is specific to a student club or organization. It doesn't benefit all of the students at GRCC. It benefits those students in that department. That makes sense. They're not raising money. They're not getting,
Right, but they're also not taking away almost 90% of, you know, like the budget for all the other things as well.
oh,
That's, you know, that's the point I'm trying to make. It's pretty significant because so it could be viewed as a little self-serving to all the other clubs, because what if, you know, like they're needing saying to their whatever their goals or whatever their ambitions are, whatever their needs are, may just be as important to them as, you know, your natural refugees to you or to your club as well.
Yeah.
So it could be it's a little conflicted there.
oh, I understand that. I was just pointing out that the purpose of the conference is no different than the purpose of a field trip or
Right.
other
Right,
requests.
so like, I mean, we could, the Lit Club would say, well, we wanna go, we'd like to allocate to, somebody finance our trip to the next Mr. Olympia, or, you know, the next strongman contest. That's our field, we could network with a lot of people, you know, in our field and market ourselves to them. But that, again, would have a huge, you know, financial cost, like lodging, of course, airfare, like what your costs as well. And so it'd be a little greedy of us to ask for something like that, you know, I mean, even though it's really well for us, it'll help our careers down the line, you know, as personal trainings, as strength conditioning coaches and all things like that. But we're taking almost the entire budget for just a very select few. And all the needs of everybody else are just kind of would be, not, I wouldn't want to say neglected or indifferent, but just there wouldn't be anything for them, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And additionally, like, this isn't even a significant chunk of a club, you could say it's only 2 students. So it feels like we're kind of just backstopping 2 students' career opportunities, potential career opportunities.
I would also like to point out that GRCC is one of the top 2 schools, community colleges in the geography department. And a big part of that is, you know, like it or not, it's the conference attendances.
So you'd be representing us, is what you're saying when you went there, is that where you'd be representing us, so that's, so
We're
you're
not
saying that's.
going as independent students.
I have a question.
Yes,
This conference isn't being held until the 15th of April, right?
that's correct.
So wouldn't that mean that you guys still have potentially upwards of 5 months to plan on some kind of fundraising or alternative means of funding this trip?
Yes.
All right.
How often is this meeting? Like, is it every year or every 4 years? Or-
It's annually. 2025 will be in Detroit. 2026 is in Colorado. It's every year. East Lakes also happens every year. But the big one is annually.
Any further question?
Because the allocation request is larger than that $1,000 mark, it's going to be put up to a group vote by the town hall. So we'll start with all in favor, just give a raising of hands and we'll count that. And then opposed, So it appears that the motion will be denied, and I would just encourage the club to try some different fundraising tactics, see if there's some time that can be spent to contribute some of that money and cut that total cost down. And later down the line, maybe submit a lower allocation request for whatever you need to finish that off.
Is there any possibility that, you know, you said the trip was April 15th? What was the trip gonna be?
April.
Okay, is there any possibility that maybe there might be additional money in the student body, or there's no?
This is what we have for the year.
Okay, yeah, so there's nothing else coming in at all, okay.
I,
I would also, sorry.
I just wanna say, I am aware, I looked into GIS for a career and, I totally get where you're coming from. And, I feel like majority of, the clubs we have here aren't doing things like what we're working towards, so I feel like this will be, we will probably end up getting a large chunk. That's my personal opinion. Like our club, for example, we're not going, you know, to Hawaii, but we have localized plans, but, we can step aside so that you can have that opportunity, and I'm sure that other clubs will share that too.
Maybe if, something, you know, just that you want, maybe if all the clubs, could put, you know, like, potential cost estimate allocations for what, you know, they think they may or not need, you know, and then we could realistically look at, you know, like what would be, you know, available for this.
All in all, I would recommend getting together with Sheena and Student Life and seeing if there's a better way to budget this a bit more like tightly, and see what else that maybe DeVios, is that the name of the advisor? DeVito. DeVivo, I'm so sorry. Maybe there's something that he's not seeing that Sheena can help out with, because Sheena's done this a ton of times as well.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help map some of that out, just my map, and be mindful of timelines, just so that I can approach this in every direction to try to support it in time.
Yeah.
I don't want it to get down to the wire. I'd rather be working in January and early February to secure these. Okay, so, yeah, let's be in touch.
Someone sent a message on the,
Nonprofits, you guys do, maybe that could, you know.
Would be reasonable to not attend this year, but plan to fundraise more for the Detroit one next year, and maybe the expenses would be less since it's a bit closer. That's a fair argument as well.
Well, that's right.
If you didn't hear me say that, who is that? Katya, is that correct? Katya. Said maybe it's worth just waiting until the Detroit one, since that one's gonna be a bit more local and a bit less expensive coming through. But with that being said, we do have to move on. We do have a guest speaker coming in at 1, and we have one more thing on the agenda to get through, which is the campus activities fee input. Just gauging students' thoughts on raising the students' and campus activities fee to gain more funds for allocation requests. Just to give you guys some background, your current student campus activities fee for full-time students is $10, and for part-time students is $5. And that amount has been consistent for the past 14 years at GRTC. So the argument is that given the passing of time and inflation, you know, things have never really been lower. There's an argument that was talked about in our meetings about part-time students still get all of the benefits of any events that are held using the campus activities fee. CAB events, for example, don't discriminate on whether or not you're a part-time employee or a full-time employee. So despite the fact that you're paying 50% less, you still get 100% of the benefits that a full student employee gets. So there have been talks about maybe not increasing the fee, but just matching that part-time fee to be the same as the full-time fee. But all in all, we want to hear more about what you guys are thinking and what you guys would like. More so than just provide our own theories. So does anyone have any thoughts about this moving forward? Spencer?
So if we were to raise the fee, how much would we raise it by?
We don't know.
Yeah.
For sure. A concrete number.
This is the first time to come up.
Yep, despite bringing it up at the Board of Trustees meeting, we still just are starting this conversation.
What's the current gap between the part-time student fee and the full-time student? fee?
$5. So again, full-time students are paying 10, part-time students are paying 5.
Okay,
And that's paid when you pay your tuition. That's already baked into the cost.
What,
I mean-
what
when
kind
you
of
pay your
impact do you
bill.
think that would have, right, if that were to be raised?
Can you say,
What kind of impact do you think that would have, or would be raised?
well, Nick, did you have like the statistics on how many part-time students were?
I don't, but I do know that when the activities fees was put in place, there were more full-time students than there were part-time students. And at this point, there are more part-time students than there are full-time students.
yeah, so that's pretty significant.
Right, so while I don't have the numbers, like, 5,000 part-time, 2,000.
They generate a lot more income for.
It's right. The more students are paying $5 than $10.
Right.
I mean, I'm a part-time student and I mean, I wouldn't mind an increase of like $5.
I think it's pretty realistic, because, I mean, students are paying, I just bought a smoothie and it was like $6. So I think, I don't think it's, it's that big of a.
and this is also only like a semester fee, right? Or is this like an annual fee?
And
This is an annual fee, okay, so yeah, I mean, like, yeah, for sure.
I feel like both should be raised. I feel like part-time should match full-time and that full-time should go up a little bit. Because when you're looking at your bill, that campus activities fee is so small compared to everything else that's on your bill. It's kind of insignificant at that point. And it would really help like clubs be able to do more. For instance, like if we did have more of a budget, maybe we wouldn't have been so quick to like disapprove of the last thing, which would be, which is an awesome thing for a club to do, something very educational based. That furthers people's careers and stuff like that. Those are good things that we would be able to provide more of if we had more of a activities budget.
I totally agree with that, I really do.
And yeah, like any increase would just go into primarily that pool. That supports all clubs on campus.
Yeah,
So
you said it was the same for like 14 years?
14 years, it hasn't changed.
Oh,
Wonder how much is $1 from 14 years ago worth now?
Well, I can tell you that 3 years ago, I could go to a gas station and spend $1 and get a full bag of chips. And that was 3 years ago, and now we can't do that. Maybe it was 5 years ago, it would be more fair. But,
That's another part of the equation.
Yeah.
Inflation. really.
Inflation.
Really
Really
have
doesn't
kept
go
up
as
with cost.
far.
Yeah, really have kept up with cost, has it now?
I mean, like, I don't want to speak for everybody here, but like personally, like I would be comfortable with like even twice the amount.
Yeah,
Of like,
same.
yeah,
I think like it's pretty fair.
my concern coming forward, because I'll be completely honest, like from my position, I'm still on the fence a bit, just because we're all here, we all have clubs, we all have a vested interest. There are a ton of students who are just looking to get an education and are just trying to further their academic careers, who are not receiving any benefit whatsoever to the $10 to $5 that they're currently paying into that budget, but are still paying it for the good of everybody who is participating on campus.
Well, wouldn't that benefit other resources as well here, not just, for our course, but for, like the entire university or the college here?
The campus activities fee goes to things like CAB and club allocation requests and stuff like that. You're right.
I feel like although there's probably a huge majority of students who don't attend a single event on campus, even if you're not in a club, you probably attend at least one or two for the entire year. And I don't feel like it's that bad if it was raised a little bit. It doesn't have to be double. I feel like double would be good, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be like, less than that. And still like eating a meal at one of these events that you go to that are usually most often provided on campus would cover it'd be worth it at that point.
Spencer?
Yeah, plus I feel like, even if like a majority of students don't currently attend events, like that could also just be a byproduct of the fact that like we are still in a way, coming out of the pandemic. So it's like students like I've noticed are like, still kind of socially anxious, still kind of getting back into the groove of like regular interaction. So it might take some time for like people to get more involved on campus, but like I think it would be a worthwhile investment, especially when it's so insignificant compared to the rest of the costs that we're paying.
I know a lot of people don't even know about like a lot of these a lot of clubs that exist. So I would think like if they knew about it, a lot of more people knew about different clubs, there would probably be more people that would go to like meetings and stuff. At least from what I've heard.
I tend to agree with that as well, yeah.
Do you think we need more clubs or just more advertising around the clubs?
Maybe more awareness, high awareness, definitely high awareness.
I'll be completely honest, like, if I worked on Raider Connect, half the clubs I wouldn't even know really were around,
Right.
Raider Connect is the home for clubs.
Fair enough.
So if you're not in a club, you're most likely not using Raider Connect.
Yeah.
I barely go on Raider Connect, and I'm in a couple clubs, so.
Right.
It's kind of like a vicious cycle in that way, because it's like, that's how you find out about clubs for the most part. But like, you can't, it's not like you can't use it if you're not part of the club, and you're probably not going to.
Right. It's just another thing on your
Each
list.
club
You
could
click on it, you're like,
promote themselves,
Tell me
trying
that.
to various social medias and bring them to Raider Connect. Like people Snap, Instagrams, Twitters, Facebooks, et cetera. Maybe they could use their, create a club one and redirect traffic to there too, so that could, more eyes, on the screen.
clubs are allowed to have their own social media. That has to get set up through college, I believe. But yeah, I think most of the clubs have their own social media.
I find it interesting how many clubs have told me that they have like Discords, for example, and that's how they get the majority of their announcements and their updates out. And then others have Snapchat and Snapchats and, other group messaging boards because they just prefer using them to Raider Connect, I guess. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, Raider Connect is very counterintuitive because it's just another thing to add on with all the social media we use.
Yep.
We have an entire Snapchat group dedicated to each year for graduates at GRCC that can be utilized for club outreach. I know. I've done it. Yeah, so I think maybe it's not so much, I think there's something about just like finding a different avenue for having clubs having their base. And I think Raider Connect's good to like, this is where all our clubs are at, but I do feel that there's like a lot of like disconnect when it comes to just like utilizing Raider Connect in that sense. And then also I also want to make a point about like the campus activities fund. I feel like at this point, it's like college students are kind of being squeezed already for money. So like, even just a couple of dollars compounding that is not, a good idea. But I do agree with the sentiment that it is definitely something that should exist and continue, because it's just like a union deal. You're going to pay the union due, not because you want to, but because it's going to benefit everyone. Everyone benefits from activities and campus.
So
Very true.
just making sure I'm kind of reading the room right, but even assuming that we've already talked about inflation, tuition prices are probably going to continue to increase. Despite that, you guys are still in favor of increasing that campus activities budget, and you would be in favor of it.
But most of the sentiment seems to be in favor of it.
Would you guys say you are more in favor of making part-time students match full-time students, or just increasing it across the board?
I'm in favor of that. Whether it's a slight increase or, the regular rate.
Well, I'm
honestly,
asking for like a preference between the two.
I definitely feel like we can increase it across the board.
Yeah, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm president of club and I'm part-time, so like,
Yeah. It's worth noting that we do not have the power to raise the campus activities fee.
Yeah,
That it was brought to our attention that the campus activities fee has not been looked at since it was implemented nearly 15 years ago. And so we decided to look into it. And my immediate concern, I was like, why am I paying more as a full-time student than a part-time student who has access to the same things?
mhm.
So that's where this conversation came from. It was not like, if we raise the campus activities fee, we can get more money.
Yeah.
But that is the truth, that as we're, going through the budget, like, we're almost out of money for the year.
Right, that's how, that's probably the major source of how it's generated. So I'd be all in favor of that.
I was bringing up the awareness part because more people are aware of clubs, they would probably more likely be able to agree to paying a bigger fee
Sure.
because it would benefit them more.
Yeah, and it's not just clubs, the campus activity fee also goes towards the music groups, the display magazine, the student food pantry, Go CGR, which is kind of like your ticket to museums and the zoo and stuff like that, like
Our price.
that is included in the campus activities fee as well. So it's not just beneficial for clubs, it's beneficial for the entire student body. It just kind of depends on where you choose to participate and where you get your value out of it.
I did have one question as well, because like, I'm not sure how true this is, if you can tell me whether it is or not, but like, I've heard that our budget this year was like about a third of what it was last year. So like, where, if that's true, like, where did that money go between last year and this year?
So the majority of what we were working with, at least last semester, and the reason why our budget was so bigger last semester than this semester was because we were dealing with a lot of residual runoff from COVID, coming out of COVID. And then even before then, clubs and orgs were not operating under COVID times. And that money was still being collected. And so that's what led to such a big surplus of that reserve money just continuously being rolled over. And it wasn't until the last semester that most of that rollover funding ended up getting put into larger events like the world, the cultural festival. I'm very sorry.
So it was mostly like state funding kind of a thing?
No, it's that same $5-10.
When there were no activities on campus, we didn't spend money on clubs and groups.
Okay.
So there was money left over at the end of the year that rolled over into the next year's budget.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay, that makes sense.
I know a lot of clubs like got disbanded during COVID.
right,
Cause I joined a bunch of clubs
right.
during COVID and basically all of them ended up
Right.
just completely disbanding.
There's nothing you could do when you can't get together and do things.
Yeah, but after COVID, some of them were brought back, like Stand Up, for example.
Right.
Stand Up. So,
And I can attest that, things like, the student pantry is, is really utilized, by students because, nobody's here, going there. It's, it really does that, beyond just our clubs. That really provides a real need for students that, need that kind of resource.
One of the things coming into GRCC from being in the workforce for so long that actually surprised me was how generous we were with the food pantry and things like the leave some food, take some food cubbies that are all about campus. And I wasn't expecting that kind of like investment in making sure college students didn't go hungry, being on campus. And I found that to be just something as a new student coming in that really spoke to me.
It's a real issue.
Yes.
Who started the food pantry?
I don't actually know. Do you know, Ashley? Was it a student?
The food pantry has always lived in student life. I think at first it was a much smaller initiative. It lived in like more of a closet space that people could kind of shop out. With the pandemic, there was like a quick need for so many people that we moved into the space next door, which was a meeting, like a conference space similar to this. And if any of you've been in the pantry, you can kind of see how that space provides for like a true shopping experience. So yeah, it has been I'm not sure who, when, why, or how originally, but I know it has been in student life and it's just progressively gotten larger, and the institution has been more committed to it as the years go on. So the funds that they're speaking to supporting it, I think this year there was $4,000 put towards, which I think the cost breakdown is that it supplies the snack pantries for a year or close, or at least a supplemental. So for a bit of context and how that money can source food stuff.
Yes.
Has there been any research into like, what other community colleges or universities charge for campus activities fee?
Not yet. Like I said, we're still just getting started with this, but that's on our radar as something that we're looking at before we move further with it.
Yeah, we had a meeting with Eric Mullen and when we left the meeting, that was one of his action items, is to gather data from other local colleges and see what their activities fees are, if they have them, and what they pay for. So that we can get a comparison to see where we're at in line with other local colleges and universities. Again, it was an inaugural meeting, so no decisions have been made, and there's not a set time limit of when this is going to. But we're hoping to have more information going into next semester, with the potential of a proposal by the end of the semester. Well, right now, it's really just gathering data.
Yeah.
So I hate to say like, we don't know, but we don't know.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that a lot of the ideas here are great and I like what we're seeing, I know that at least for me, I'm not going to be comfortable pushing forward to this until at least we get more survey data from a greater sample size of students. Because as many voices on campus that can be heard about this should be heard about this, because it's a big deal, you know?
You have that stats class knowledge.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Right, Katia has added a few comments here. It would be good to see how an increase matching impacts the school, and if it's a significant increase, then we could stop there instead of increasing the fee for full-time students. So if we just went to $10 across the board, I believe is what they're saying. And then in addition to the food pantry, in the Psi Beta Club runs a basic needs drive in the fall semester where students can leave food or other supplies, and it goes back to the students, and the drive runs out of Sneeden Hall.
And to that point, at least me personally, I'm much more in favor of doing something like what she suggested, as far as seeing what increasing that part-time to full-time $10 would do to the overall budget before we start going crazy. Because I think that this is something that should be handled carefully, and we should be working as hard as we can to mitigate the cost of students, despite the fact that this money is kind of a need. And so taking this as a slow step-by-step basis type thing would be, I think, the most responsible way to go about doing it. Spencer?
Yeah, I did have another question about like the decision-making process regarding this. So like, I know you guys can't like propose anything, but like when there is a proposal, would we, as the student body, get the chance to vote on that? Or would it just be more so like you're looking for opinions?
I believe that the way it works, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we pull out a full study on it, we get as much feedback as we can, and we write a proposal to the board of trustees, and then they're the ones who vote on it.
Okay.
But effectively speaking, I wouldn't want to put it in front of the Board of Trustees for a vote until we had a vote of full confidence from the students.
Okay,
And that's just my personal belief. So know that you guys will know what we're planning to do before we bring a vote to the Board of Trustees.
I think it's actually a good thing they increase because it benefits so many different, areas.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have been to any of those CAB events, but they're quite good.
I hear great things about it, when my kids were 10 or I do have holding like a rave or something next semester, yeah.
They did a pool party before the pool was closed in the field house, and apparently that was rather fun.
I wish I'd known.
Ready to connect? Oh, yeah. Amanda's here. All right, great. All that being said, thank you guys. We're gonna have another block open for community discussion, but right now we have our guest speaker, Amanda, in for our discussion on Blackboard. So would you mind introducing yourselves, and thank you for coming?
Yes,
being with us.
absolutely. Thank you for giving us some time here. I represent more the administrative side of the LMS replacement. My name is Amanda Curzona. I'm the Director of Institutional Research at the college. I'm just part of the project team. I am representing myself and our project manager from our IT department. So please bear with me as I talk through some things that I don't necessarily have direct everyday involvement with. I know enough to be dangerous. So I'm going to try to speak about this stuff in a way that's helpful to understand. So again, thank you for giving us an opportunity to come talk to you guys on a one-on-one phase. We are looking for feedback, and I know it can be a little, not intimidating, but when you have representatives from the institution wanting to have those conversations, you're more apt to not say what you feel honestly. But I hope that you feel that you have the floor and the space to give us any and all feedback that you have. I think this is some meaningful precedent for us to work with our student population as important stakeholders in a lot of our technology decisions. Our LMS, if you're not familiar, is our learning management system, which is Blackboard. It's basically the tool that instructors use to build course content, to organize the classes and manage course interaction with their students and within students. We're in the midst of initiating an RFP, which is a request for proposal. It's essentially a three-pronged we hope to achieve a three-pronged outcome, in my opinion. So the first is, we just want to see what other vendors are out there. We've had Blackboard for a while. Is Blackboard the only tool that can speak to our needs? So it just gives us it gives us a perspective of what else is out there. The other side of it is it allows us to gauge what our needs are. I don't know if we really know what our needs are as an institution, as a student population, as faculty body. We know what they were, but what are they right now? And is Blackboard the best equipped to meet those needs? So having to speak to that and articulate what those needs are is a big step in the right direction, as well as it gives us the edge of competitive pricing. If you think about it, if you have one product that you're using, they're going to be less inclined to give you a deal. So if you do the RFP, you get more people bidding in on what you need. That gives us an opportunity to be more strategic and have a financial need with respect to that. So it's a little bit of the financial edge of it, but it's just kind of that time. We have Blackboard, that's kind of the contract we have that's ending, and so we have to plan for that next phase. So it could mean that we stick with Blackboard. I think that's the other side of it too. This does not mean that Blackboard is completely getting tossed out, bathed with bathwater. This is essentially us saying Blackboard could be the next tool. It may not be what is the best tool for us.
The other competitors.
We haven't. We know anecdotally what are some other products based on what people have used at other institutions. So Canvas has come up a lot. DTL has come up a lot. Blackboard has a whole new Ultra base that we haven't gone to yet at the institution, but other institutions are using it. So we have some ideas about what other vendors are out there.
Would it be a huge retooling or not? It wouldn't be, it's a switch, it wouldn't be, that major deal, or would there be a lot of retooling involved?
I guess it all depends. And that's part of what goes into the RFP process is if it saves us a bunch of money, but it's going to take us 7 years to implement.
Exactly.
I don't think that's gonna be our best bet, right? So there's a lot of consideration that goes into it. Most companies, when you talk to them, they're gonna say, oh, it'll stand up in 4 to 6 months or whatever, whether that's true or not.
Realistic or not.
Yeah, so I mean, there's gonna be pros and cons
Yeah,
to all of
for
it. And
sure.
with the RFP process, we have to be very careful on what we do ahead of the RFP and when the RFP opens. As soon as we initiate that RFP, we can't have any specialized communication with those vendors because that's a legal implication. Because it's essentially making it seem like we're giving certain vendors an edge, if you will. So once we initiate that RFP, we are locked down in what
I
we
think
can
I
do.
speak for all of you. Thank you for coming and thank you for giving us heads up
Yeah.
because this will really make a huge difference in whatever we do.
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah.
definitely thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes,
Very, very sorry, just want to slow it down a little bit. What does
Yes.
RFP mean?
yeah, it's a request for proposal.
I see, gotcha.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be the proposal to either replace or renew Blackboard?
The RFP for this process is actually us doing a wide net cast and saying, this is all of our needs as an institution. Who can meet those needs? And then the vendors prepare a proposal that they
Mm.
submit to us. And then based on the proposals that are submitted, those are the only vendors that we consider our options to be. And then we select from those vendors.
I see.
So not every vendor is going to answer our RFP because we're gonna be very specific on the needs of our institution and not every vendor can meet all of those
Right,
needs.
it's specialized, of course.
But you know, like with anything, once something goes out and it's out there for a while, people get the ability to create. So there's a lot of vendors that'll be similar. I
Right.
mean, it's gonna be same functionality, maybe it's just.
And it may,
based
and
differently.
they even push Blackboard to offer a better rate or some innovation.
Yes, yeah.
Because if they feel like, listen, we're going somewhere else, well, what can we do to retain our customer?
Yeah.
They might innovate or reduce rate or do something, to be
Mhm.
competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not necessarily the pain that we wanna go into because these companies are going to have to produce hundreds of pages of contractual proposals, and we're gonna have to go through each one in painstaking detail
Why
to
they
just
have-
check, yeah. And we don't have a huge time frame to do it as well, so it's gonna be very crucial for our RFP team to know what our needs are so that they can understand if the vendor's been meeting them.
I believe it was you that was saying, that, the GRC, Rate to Connect wasn't very intuitive. Was it you that said that? Yeah, so I mean, it seems like some of the programs or, the site is a little slower than what it could be,
Mhm.
And so there's a little bit of downtime and
Yeah.
I don't, it just seems like it could be fast. There's room for improvement, definitely.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and all the feedback that we've gotten so far has been very valuable. And so thank you for everybody that's been willing to give that feedback. We also have out there, if you're interested, if you go to grcc.edu/LMS project, it's something that's put together by our IT department. It gives you the timeline of everything. This is going to be a 6 to 8 month timeframe. We just started probably the tail end of October, and now we're really getting into the discovery of what do we need, we can package that together, then we put out the RFP, we give the vendors enough time to answer, then we have to look at each individual one, then we do demonstrations, and then we make a decision, then we purchase, then we do the implementation. So it's a long time frame associated with it, but that website is gonna give you the transparency across all the steps that we're at. So please take a look. If you have any questions on that, please let us know. And I can send that again to you guys so that you have that in the notes as well. But again, it's all that time frame related, who's on the teams. So if you want to know which faculty are representing all the different search committees, you can see that. If you want to bring anything up to them as well, I would encourage you to do that as well. You can also ask any questions that you have on this site. So if you do have a question, like one of the big questions that keeps coming up that's on there right now is, does this mean Blackboard in a big way? And it just kind of explains why we're doing the RFP and what it means. And so kind of all those points that I brought up earlier. So that's kind of the recap of why we're doing this, which I think we covered in some level in the first 2 town halls. But today, what we're really hoping to do is kind of talk through what we've gathered from our faculty, what the faculty have said are student frustrations, and we want to see if that really aligns. Because again, these are 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. We've got the absorbers or the people interacting and the people creating content. And so if that means something, yeah.
to what range and to what scope have faculty been involved in pointing out pain points? Because someone brought this up at our last town hall, but it's definitely important that the faculty who utilize this are heard when they're talking about things as well as the student.
Yeah, so we are bringing the entire campus community in on this. So only so far we've done a faculty survey, but there's gonna be faculty focus groups that are going in. Staff focus groups are gonna be in there.
Do you have a rough idea of how many professors have given feedback? Like, is the number higher than 10 or is it higher than 50?
It is, it was a significant amount. We opened it and I think we had 100 responses like within the first day.
Awesome.
Which we were thinking about how are we gonna get people to respond to this and we did.
Did you imagine the instant feedback?
Yes,
Oh, you.
they were
knew,
prepared,
yeah,
they were
okay,
prepared,
okay.
yeah. Based on those responses,
Yeah,
they were
exactly, yeah.
prepared. Which I know they're given that open space to be able to talk about it, go for it.
I think too, like, a lot of probably values should be considered in, the tech department's, opinion.
Mhm.
Yeah, what they, because
Right,
that's above my pay grade, of course, I don't specialize in that.
Mhm.
But, I'm be interested in what their input would be and how they see things and stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, ultimately, they're gonna be working on this system more than all of us.
Yeah.
And using. it.
yeah. And they do have feedback, so that we
Okay,
do
oh,
have
that's good.
representation
Good.
on the project team. So there is that consideration. I think it's the idea that we're trying to bring all perspectives into the mix so that we're not just choosing what's the easiest to implement. We're not choosing what's the prettiest tool out there.
Right.
It's a mix of all of that.
Yeah, like, cost effectiveness,
Correct.
intuitiveness, everything.
And there has to be justification. We have to be able to justify our decision. So there's gonna be a very lengthy,
What kind of commitments are gonna be, what do you think is coming to be asking for? Like the contract, what would it be, a 2-year commitment, 4-year commitment, or how long would you be using it?
I think it
How long
depends.
would Blackboard just, just renewed every year contractually, or how did that work out?
So this would probably be a better question for Jeff, because I know that for a long time, technology used to be what they called on-prem. So you bought the tool and you housed it, you maintained it, you might have to do certain upgrades, but it was basically your IT tech department that took care of
Evolved
it.
so much to be done there.
Yes, and so now it's more off-prem, so it's more cloud-based, so we don't have as much like.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily different than just yearly subscription, but with it not being housed on our campus,
Right,
it makes it a little bit more
because there's
flexible.
no central server, it's just, we don't, it's out there.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that we could switch on and off each year either, which I think is
Sure.
something we want to
Yeah.
avoid as well.
And probably would be a little secure too, we'd have our own, hard drive, our own central server, in case something didn't happen with them, we wouldn't just fully be in the dark, we'd have some type of backup, right?
Which security is definitely a component of
Yeah.
this too, I think data security, cybersecurity,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, there's kids, I'm not gonna mention any names, but there's a couple kids in my class that, already use a chat bot.
Mhm.
And that's something to consider too, and, so getting couple kids got busted, some kids are getting away with it, but that's a concern too. And that the AI is getting a lot better. And I see them, I mean, I'm just playing around, with it and stuff, like writing me a song, but some of it's, a little clumsy. Well, I mean, it is, but it's kind of scary how good it can be with a little fine tuning.
Mhm.
And it could really, and that could affect a lot of, students cheating or, deep fakes and stuff like that. So that's obvious, something to consider too.
Alright, so were we gonna go over the faculty responses? Did you review those yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we asked faculty essentially, what do you use within the Blackboard? So what tools do you use? And it ranged all over the place because I think faculty interact with it in different ways. Then we asked, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And then what have you heard that your students don't like about it? So that was kind of the big 3 categories. I tried to focus on the latter 2 or the final 2, just because I think that's really the biggest thing we wanted to focus on, because it's also something that's very specific and there were trends within it. So when it comes to faculty, one of the questions was, the question was, what are your biggest frustrations or what don't you like about it? And, some of those were, you know, the use on interfaces. So between mobile phones and tablets and your desktop, it's not quite the best transition. So their user frustration with that. Too many clicks and the navigation is a little problematic. So whether it's you scroll to another page, you go back to the previous page, it doesn't remember where you were. So if you scroll to the bottom of the page and now you're back at the top of the page, then you keep having to scroll. And those tended to be similar for what they recognized as student frustrations between the change in interface as well as navigation. So, yeah.
One of the things I noticed just recently, and I brought it up before, that significantly bothered me about the Blackboard functionality is there's a grades overview tab. And then there's also each individual class has a grades portion, but there's no way to redirect from that overview tab to an individual class, so you can see why your grade is the way it is.
That's
You
funny you
have
say
to-
that, because I've had the same problem. It's frustrating sometimes.
You have to go to your grades and then you're like, oh, why do I have like a 82 in this class? And then you have to go
thank you.
back to your class and then into the grades tab to see why it's like that.
And
It's-
a faculty member specifically pointed out, watching a student going from one page, trying to navigate to another page within the course, they had to click out of the course,
Mhm.
go back into the course to get to the specific page instead of just being able to do like a one-click navigation. So, yeah.
Especially when we're talking about too many clicks, it's too many back and forward.
Yeah.
clicks That is an issue that I hear a lot.
So it was.
Save
it
a
was
lot
good
of
to
time,
see.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So that was unanimous, I guess, between the two groups. It seems like it speaks to frustrations as well. Grading came up a lot for faculty. Faculty have a significant qualm with grading in terms of whether it's just entering grades, the communication of grades, the scoring of grades, how things are weighted. If they don't have things that are specifically scored, but they still have an assignment that you need to complete, they have to be very strategic on how they set that up. So grading in total was a big pain point for them, which we noted very early on for our scope with the RFP, that we need to make sure that whatever we choose from here on out is the best suited for helping us navigate grading.
Absolutely.
And so I do know that there seems to be also a difference between how grades are coded in our information system versus Blackboard, and how there can be discrepancies there that are not entirely obvious because faculty have to essentially enter grades two places. It would be nice if they just had to enter it once and you could see that uniform.
Otherwise, it's just a little redundant to do it twice a year.
Well, then you get people contacting who are like, I have a B+ here, but it says I have a B-
Oh,
here,
completely, yeah.
which, I mean, we can't necessarily speak to what happened in Blackboard.
True.
So it's a whole,
Yeah. because it's
grading is
just-
a pain point, I guess is the big thing there. Then there's obviously concerns over if we replace this product, what's the time look
Oh,
like?
true,
What
true,
does our
downtime.
investment look like? So, that seemed pretty standard. One of the students.
Would there be any downtime, like, would Blackboard be replaced with a competitor or something else? Or would it just transition into that, or would it be like, like just reworking for, a little bit of time or the release?
So
But that's, of course, when it happens, so just, guesstimate,
usually,
can't really guarantee what's gonna happen.
if I were to go off of what we've done in the past, in terms of if we've transitioned to something new,
Yeah,
typically, even if it's, just something that we have active, but maybe not fully maintained, we will continue our current product until we have the next product fully standing up.
okay, great.
And there might be a little bit of an overlap. We try to do that because we want,
A nice transition,
Yeah.
so it just kind of moves right, kind of blends into the new one.
right, so that, and it's not like pulling the rug out from under.
Right,
everybody.
absolutely.
There's that opportunity. That's usually how it's worked, yeah.
One of the things that, were you calling on me or her? I'm sorry.
No, we were having a little conversation.
I apologize.
That's
I- Yeah. Okay, I didn't want to interrupt you as all. One of the things that I think is important as we continue to have these ongoing conversations though, is that there's a lot of feedback that comes in about what needs to change and what needs to be different. And I don't want to understate some of the things that are important that might not necessarily get looked at and might get forgotten if we're submitting this to other people. Things like making sure that different doc files and different like presentation files are still compatible with whatever kind of system or software we use. That's something that not a lot of people are going to mention in interviews, but still very vital and important to making sure that students have access to and teachers have access to.
As far as it, like interfacing.
Yeah, interfacing, compatibility with file types when you're doing submissions for like essays and stuff like that. So I guess my question is, what kind of, aside from the surveys and the feedback that you're getting from faculty and students, what other information is being pulled together when you're listing out your demands on what the product needs to serve and function to do?
And that's a good question. What I can do is I can have Jeff speak to that in terms of, from the real project management standpoint. He's already starting to fill in some of those things for the RFP, because there are, to your point, there's going to be things that are just critical. We aren't going to be able to say like, well, it looks pretty, but it doesn't allow us to do X, Y, and Z. So the pretty is more important. Not necessarily. Some of that's fundamental. Like, we can't go forward without having some of those fundamentals.
It's very easy to, I feel like in my own practice, it's very easy to maybe forget some of those fundamentals when you're trying to change a bunch of things and you're used to having it all this time. So
And I think it also, but this is also like the benefit to us going through this, right? Because there's a lot of things that we might not be aware of that have been a pain point for a really long time, and nobody's had any space or anywhere to put that frustration. So we could have been having issues with certain files being uploaded, not being uploaded, and no one's ever had space to communicate that. So we have no idea how long that's been an issue.
That's right.
But it's something that we can at least say we're aware of it more so than we have been in the past. And I think as technology improves, more consideration to things like that. So those are good things that I will make sure that I bring up to Jeff to make sure that we have that in there, that we have a range of platforms and different doc file submission types that we can upload in here, and that compatibility is seamless from one movement to the next, whether that's technology types versus interfaces, modalities, all of that.
Yeah, most students, I feel like, use either Google Docs or Word for the completion of most of their text-based assignments. And just making sure that those are always a standard, and maybe kind of going away from like PDF formats that are a bit outdated, I think is going to help a lot of people out when possible. So just wanted to make sure that was there.
Administration and stuff, we're just a student, but with faculty, we get a lot more direct feedback than we do. Is there raised alerts as far as cheating and stuff like that? With the chat bot, because it happens a lot. I mean, I'm not trying to, be the police or anything like that, but it's happened a lot more than people are aware of. And I'm just like, sure, some days I'd rather not write, and I say at the same time, why am I paying for education I'm not learning for? Yeah, so, but people are free to do whatever they do, wrong or right, I can't stop what they do. But it just seems unfair for the students who do, try to be honest and, work hard to achieve what their goals are. And other people just cheat, and it just doesn't seem very fair. And some of them are getting away with it, and I'm not gonna point them out, that's not my job. They know who they are, and they gotta know what's wrong, but they just don't care. But it just seems very dishonest. I'm wondering if there's anything that, security wise, you guys are doing, or that the faculty said, caught more students, or is that a factor, or is it just not become a running issue right now?
I can't say that it's part of necessarily our selection guidelines.
Right, and I'm not saying it's like,
Right.
9 out of 10 people. I'm like, I'd probably guess maybe 10 out of 100, or maybe 8 out of 100. But it does happen for sure.
Most teachers, this is the same thing as like plagiarism.
Right.
And most teachers use software to detect chatbot indirection.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and that's a totally different conversation. from,
Okay, okay.
Like the Blackboard interface.
Well,
I think-
But, I mean, go. on.
Just like to a quick aside about that too, like the institution is aware that, you know, artificial intelligence is, you know, moving at such an expedited rate,
It's awesome.
that they are,
That's scary.
they're looking at some
Very awesome.
policy and how to navigate that, but I think higher education in total is trying to figure out how to best leverage this, because the reality is it's not going away. So the
So
other
we
thing
get better.
and the only thing that can really happen that is the most effective thing to do is embrace it. So how do you embrace it and make it part of the process? And so that's, I think, what's happening from a faculty lens. I can't speak to where everybody
Okay.
is with it,
Yeah,
but I think it's more just, is it something that becomes part of a citation where you say, I used chatbot, I said this specifically.
so
this
it's
is
more,
what
it's
it
like a tool, you know, it's more of a tool.
Yes, because realistically, the world is getting to a point where it's not so much what you do manually, it's what you do with your mind. So instead of working the machine, it's more what can you get the machine to do for you? This is really kind of the next phase of that, and it's just come on so strong that we're still getting our bearings, institutions, higher education, they
A
are.
lot of industries too, not just education, a lot of industries are grapple with it.
Yeah, and it could come down to faculty by faculty decision. I mean, some faculty members are going to advocate for it, some are not, and so it might be, you know.
There, I'm sure there was a lot of debate when Cliff Notes came up, you know, like on the same years and years ago, I'm sure that there was, you know, that was controversial,
Mhm.
so, but,
I mean, you think about the internet in total. when the
yeah,
internet came
absolutely.
I mean, there's always gonna be something new, so how do you react to that, so. You know, one of the things that did come up that was a perceived problem for students, and I thought this was interesting because faculty member actually spoke to this, is just the fact that instructors don't use Blackboard the same. So that causes a lot of issues because you get used to using it in a certain way, you don't know how each faculty member, each class is gonna use Blackboard, which is part of the frustration, not necessarily part of the LMS selection, but I think it's something that we can certainly build into training. Yeah.
That was my question. Do faculty and staff are they required to undergo some kind of Blackboard training before they're allowed to teach with it?
So as I understand it, and this is probably something that we can put together in more of a official capacity, but you know, there is onboarding for faculty and they have to understand what tools are available to them. Depending on how tools are used, so if a course is an online course, there is specific distance learning training that they have to go through so that they make sure that the course in its entirety is accessible through a virtual means. I can't say that there's specific Blackboard training. That doesn't mean that there's not. I just don't know if specifically for every faculty member. So I mean, it's definitely something that we brought up before in conversation as we've talked about this, is just what's the good of selecting a new LMS if we can't guarantee that everyone's going to use it the same? So I think there's going to be some institutional decisions that we have to make beyond just choosing a tool. It's how we're going to use it. So.
Fair.
Yeah. And those were kind of the high level things. I mean, as with anything, you're going to have faculty members based on this survey that have no issues with Blackboard. They enjoy it, they use it, gives them no issues. They haven't heard students say anything. And then you're going to have the exact opposite where it's horrible. We need to get rid of it. I know this product that's better. I know this product that's better. All my students hate it, blah, blah, blah. So you've got two different, as you will for anything. I guess as we move through this process, the next phase is really all about focus groups where we're trying to get people together to have more candid conversations and honest conversations about things. Is there anything that you as a student body would like faculty to consider from that perspective?
For me, I know for the pronoun options on Blackboard is the system is not good. I know you have to do it on Online Center in order for it to get onto Blackboard, and you can only choose from like certain ones. And like, I know a lot of people who have like multiple pronouns. So it's just, I know that would probably be important for a lot of people.
And actually, at our last strategic leadership team, we were kind of talking through this process of selecting a new system and whatnot, and that came up as something that we added into the guidance, so that we want to make sure that any type of identity that's captured in our information system is a seamless integration into our learning management system. Or if it's not seamless, making sure that there are options outside of what's just in our information system.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good catch, Zoe. I noticed that same thing.
Yeah.
I would just argue for simplification more so than anything. I think that whatever program we use should be as relatively painless as possible for students to navigate while giving them the information that they need about their classes. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff at least baked into Blackboard right now that maybe could live elsewhere. If we're talking about just a learning platform where you see your assignments and your grades and your teachers and all that, right? You know what I mean?
So it's less congestion.
Yeah, like
Yeah, it would be a lot.
for example, like the organizations tab, that effectively kind of just functions as a location directory for tutorial labs. That can be on the MyGRCC website. I don't know why it has to be on Blackboard, and it's just another thing cluttering the space. And there's a lot of tiny things like that.
I'd also have to mirror like some of the other concerns about just like cross-platform use. Because yeah, it is very inconvenient over the phone to use Blackboard. So I don't know if there's like an application for Blackboard or maybe for a different LMS. But that would be very helpful for like especially when I like, for example, when I find myself like in the parking lot and I have no money on my Raider Connect card. And then I have to like go through my phone and like this really just like painfully slow process of like loading everything and like navigating through it's awful. So like, I don't know if that's technically part of Blackboard, but like, it seems like it's kind of part of the same.
Just loading money onto your Radar card
Just
or?
like the portal as a whole. Yeah, I don't know if that's like, I don't know if that's like necessarily connected with the LMS.
I mean, that's part of what we have to look into. I think that's
And
bigger questions that maybe we didn't think to ask, but we could be asking.
there were sometimes there's errors made too. I mean, it doesn't happen on a daily basis, but when it does occur, it's kind of, you know, a pain in the butt. Like, the bookstore, I used my Radar card and, it was through, a course that, on Blackboard as part of my assignment. But they charged me for the same book twice. The bookstore did it. They said that I had, but Blackboard actually did it. Like he said, he had an issue, like they wouldn't loan his money. Sometimes it was a reverse shortage where they're charging more than what it actually is. And so that's something that, you know, factor into when it comes to either them or a new program. And then you have to, then you gotta dispute it and, you know, so that's kind of just a little bit of a hassle. It shouldn't be necessary. Cause it's not the employees there, it's just the program itself that they, you know, made a mistake. Or error.
Is there anything that hasn't been asked that you think should be considered?
I have something in my brain, but I don't know, again, I don't know how intertwined it is.
Sure.
With what we're talking about, but, my main thing is I'm really curious how, in the future we could go about helping the faculty, navigate when there is such a large range in the way that they use it. Because like, I'm just very curious, how hard science, teachers and professors could present their work and, things like that on Blackboard, like, I don't know, the mathematical, I think I'm just mostly thinking of, something that's more of a coding issue maybe. Like mathematical signs and, chemical equation signs. But I just wanted to mention that. I don't really know if that's even useful, but I feel like that could be more coherent. And it could be, that's definitely more of a faculty thing, but I don't know if, anybody has mentioned that, of course. I'm rambling at this point.
It's okay. Are you talking like the formatting, like how they?
Yeah.
And how, okay.
Yeah, I'm not at all skilled with like IT and coding and programming and things like that, but I know for quizzes and chemistry, I just taken chemistry, class and the tests and quizzes that he has on Blackboard are, they're kind of it's kind of hard. They're janky, because,
Yeah.
you know, you're supposed to write chemical equations, how they're formatted, but you have to, he has to like work it into the,
It's a little crude, for sure.
anyway, I hope you got my meeting, but, that's my curiosity or concern, I guess, for.
I feel like that makes sense, because after thinking about what Michaela said, I think about how many of my classes, Blackboard is a required thing. You have to obviously use Blackboard to stay up to date with your classes and your assignments. But most of the classes will also require another platform on top of it. So like, like right now I'm in math class and I have to use Cengage on top. And I know that that's because the book comes through them and they can do all of the math stuff on there and whatever. But is that because Blackboard doesn't have space for that? Or is that just like something that would be the case regardless of us switching our learning platform?
To the point, it should be pretty simplistic and easy to navigate as much as possible.
I feel like it should be as simple as possible while also having as much as possible. I think- Like having it. You can have things like hidden and stuff, but
Maybe, sorry.
there's so different departments have like different uses, like the science department compared to the art department, to this, to that.
I'm so sorry, I can never tell when you're done.
I'm done. I forgot what I was about to say.
Okay, thank you. I think that you guys should have some kind of analytics on the back end of what tabs and different slides and buttons are used most frequently by the most amount of students, and prioritizing that information being front and center and the remaining information being tucked away kind of in a smaller panel might be a good idea if it has to stay.
Yeah, kind of like that, where the most useful information is in front. I was trying to say.
Again, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh, no, it's fine.
All right. Do we have anything else for our guest? In which case, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
being with us today.
Thank you for
Keep
having me here.
remaining correspondence with us, like we always appreciate it. We want to be an active part of this conversation moving forward. Whatever we can do to help us know.
Absolutely.
I don't think
Yeah,
we
thank
want
you
to.
for, keeping us current too. 'Cause,
Yeah. Like I said, I'll send you the actual shorthand for the page, but there is a full page that you can visit at any point, gives you the full timeline, all of that, so.
It's good.
Ask questions if you have them. Has contact information on here too, so.
Great. Thank you for joining us today, Amanda.
Thank you.
Moving on to the last portion of the agenda for the day is just a opportunity for public comment for everybody. We want to hear anything you'd like to report to student government, anything you'd like to tell us, anything that we can improve on based on what you're experiencing on campus. This isn't in the agenda notes, but also if you're a club or in an organization and you want to announce an event that's coming up, feel free to do that as well. But does anyone have? Go.
We do have, so, next Monday, we have our, and you know about this, but like, we have our, collaboration with Standout Club. And we're hosting, what's that?
Oh, I thought you were gonna, a movie thing.
No, but we are hosting a winter holiday party.
Oh,
So we're gonna have that on Monday, December 4th, from 4:30 PM to 8:30 PM. I'm gonna see if I can get that, like, that, ending time extended a little bit, but right now, that's where we're at. So yeah, come join us if you want. We're gonna have holiday themed music.
Doesn't the yoga club
I mean,
also have it on that day too?
They do, but we don't have much overlap between.
That's the internet.
Yeah.
I'll just write down.
Yeah, December 4th, Monday, from 4:30 to 8:30 PM.
There's a cool flyer in Student Life office. too, if you
Yeah,
wanna
okay.
look at
It
that.
should be, I don't know if they have.
It's gonna be
it
the
yet,
field
but
house there, or like get down
It's gonna
by
be-
subway, or?
It's gonna be in Sneedon,
Okay.
room 103. But yeah, we're gonna have lots of holiday music, hot cocoa bar, you know, we've got some,
Very cool.
yeah, we've got some, holiday treats coming in, so, yeah, join us if you want, join us if you're free.
I'll probably give out 30 Cookie Rolls, because I still have the entire bag of those.
Nice.
We have, Lift Club, we're gonna do, we're kind of working out the analytics now. But if anybody, tentatively, in the next 2 weeks, we're gonna do a outdoor CrossFit. In conjunction with 8th Day Gym.
Wait, how many were you said?
Yeah, outdoor. Well, this is the thing, this is the science behind it, right? Sounds a little crazy, but this is the truth. 8th Day, their 8th Day Gym, it's down there, yeah.
Okay.
And there's no cost, there's no allocation, there's no cost, so they just like to promote health, of course, and then, if you like to join the club, yes, if not, whatever, but they're just there to, kind of do a little bit of, professional training, stuff like that, get people tips, but this is what, it's actually better to train in certain times outside in the cold than it is in the heat, because when you're cold, your body gotta produce more energy to stay warm. As you produce more energy, you burn more calories.
Oh.
And if you stop moving, you get cold, so what's your motivation? I better keep going. You know what I mean? It warms you up, so there's a lot of benefits we're gonna go. Obviously, frostbite's an issue, sore joints, so you wanna, bundle up and make sure all your extremities are warm. But we're working on it, cause it's gotta be, what our 8th Day does, and they're for profit, and they're not gonna put aside, a revenue day for us, I mean, they're just doing it out of kindness of their heart. But, they're a business, so whatever, where, time slot they can fit us in, or,
Okay, so they're kind of just like hosting you guys.
Yeah, they're gonna be, there'll be some instructors, some personal trainers, certified personal trainers, and,
Oh, wow,
strength and conditioning coaches on. And those guys are beasts, man, I mean, they really know their craft.
that's awesome. Yeah, let us
But,
know.
yeah, so, I mean, and it's like, it's open to all levels, you don't have to be, like an Olympian, just, what I mean, just, get out, have some fun and stuff, there'll be refreshments too, like, hot protein cocoa and, protein bars, like some, healthier stuff like that too, but yeah, it's just to get out there and do something. And it's kind of fun, some things a little goofy, like just, certain ways of skipping rope or, just like, you're just out doing something, just moving, it's just moving.
Yeah, just being active.
Yeah, exactly.
This Friday, we have an event coming up. We are doing a private tour of the geology collection at Grand Rapids Public Museum. So, yeah, that's this Friday. We're meeting here on campus at around 11:30. We're leaving at 11:45 to walk to the museum. And then we'll be at museum with their science curator and we'll get all the goods.
One day.
Public museum?
Yeah, the Grand Rapids Public.
This Friday.
This Friday, okay, what time?
30th.
December 1st.
All right.
Is admission to the museum is covered by the Go CGR cards?
Yeah, but this is, so like,
You would meet at the library then, or
We're-
we'll meet here and go?
we're meeting in the science building in room 427. It's RSVP only, so you have to go on Radar Connect and RSVP. I'm also sending out an email that will have a Google RSVP.
I have to make it public. I posted it like members only, I think, so we have to figure that out today.
Yeah, but
Oh, so would it be open to the rest of the student government?
it will be open, yes, yeah, you don't have to be open. But yeah, we will be getting a tour of not just like the museum itself, but the private geology.
That's
collection.
fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't
That's
think.
stuff that the public doesn't normally get to see.
That would certainly.
That's what I'm saying, is go get the Go CGR
Yeah.
Yeah,
cards
that's very
from
cool.
the student
Kind of
life
behind the
office,
scenes.
and that should
Yeah.
cover your admission to the museum.
Yeah.
Cause Go CGR pays for all the local museums.
So you don't just have to show them your school ID?
You also need.
You need a card.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, It's
I know I
usually
got
that way,
into
but-
I have to do
the,
that. Rater card.
Oh, there is a thing too, it's not associated with us.
This is what the CG are.
Okay. Were you?
I know I got into, I've gotten into the zoo without that card.
I mean, if you have your student ID, that's probably enough, but.
I worked at a
They
bowling,
gave me, so.
I worked at a bowling alley who did a limited time, like bowling day for GRCC students, and all they had me at for was a student ID.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
but you should get the card just in case, 'cause
Right.
there are gonna be some.
Yeah.
There be more sticklers.
Not back to that.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't mentioned, you know, in the main discussion of the email,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll
there's-
figure that out.
Yeah.
Bring that up.
You have an interest like in playwright too, just as like our production movies or just, you know, movies in general?
yeah,
I was gonna tell you, and then, I mean, this is open to everybody. But, a friend of mine works at the Civil Auditorium, White House there. And every Thursday, they're running a promotion this month, actually in December. Where, you can pay $1, $100,000, you can see a play, so whatever you wanna donate, and it's, some of these tickets are like $60, so you just put a couple bucks in the, you know, in the box and you're good to go, so it's,
Where
you
is
know,
this?
at the Civic Auditorium down here.
Oh, and you just like,
Yeah, it's
whatever.
whatever you wanna donate, every Thursday, yeah, so every Thursday, you look it up, and you'll see like, you know, what plays are, being put on, or. At what time, stuff like that, but it's something, you know, to do at a low cost.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good to know.
Yeah, sure.
Do we have any feedback or input for student government that we want to put down? Anything you guys didn't like or liked about this last town hall?
I didn't wanna be, like overly aggressive or like overly like disapproving, but I just thought that geology, cost was just out of this world high.
Yeah.
And, cause that just takes away from everything.
Well,
And if you factor in it, it's only benefiting so few. And then it's in Hawaii, there's just a lot of things that like, the one in Hawaii. And I know it's very important to her and to the other person, but it just seemed like a lot for such a limited, you know.
And plus, like, with no real, like, tangible.
Exactly,
I mean, like,
exactly.
yeah, you're networking and that, yeah. you
Right,
have advice,
but that
like-
could be the same for you, like you could say, well, I want to go to the Canes Festival, because you guys finance this, because this is your club would be involved, for me to say, oh, I want to go to Strongman time, finance this, it's just, you know what I mean? I know there's education opportunities and network opportunities available, if that's your field, but man, it's just a huge cost.
Yeah,
I mean,
like, I mean, me personally, like, I wouldn't ask for student government to finance, like, you know, an opportunity for art majors to get scholarships. That just seems like.
Right.
That's something.
well,
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair that that's what that was.
I mean-
It's within reason to ask to go to conferences.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
absolutely what the student activities
Right.
is for, and that's absolutely, yeah.
Because I feel like that's the most far outreaching, thing that the club is doing.
Yeah.
This year, like,
We ourselves attended a conference. in
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
first
We
semester.
financed several students who have conferences this
We
year.
approved an allocation for another club earlier this semester too.
I think you're right, though, it's the amount.
Yeah, it's the-
Given the fact that we have $14,000
And that's
a
just
$13,000
Gonna
request
get
is
a lot of
unreasonable.
that, almost
Yeah.
all of it.
I mean, like.
That's the only thing.
Assuming like, you know, it's like later in the year and it's like, all right, we still haven't used like a good chunk of the budget, then it makes more sense. But,
Yeah,
like, right
Because
now-
other clubs budgets, they're like with us, like some are quote breakdown or, you know, something that unforeseeable that might be an actual need or an issue, and then the money's just not there. Or like your club or any other clubs, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then once it's gone, there's nothing there that in case of like an emergency, you know, need or issue.
I personally feel like if you really want to go to Hawaii and this means a lot to you and this is as big as an event as you're talking about it, and you have 5 months, you'll find some time to fundraise. There will be some time to fundraise.
Absolutely,
They
yeah.
also do, like you're saying, they do have a lot, they have months to do
Yeah.
it, so, you know.
I don't think it hurts to ask them.
Of course,
Oh,
like I don't think, and again, like for all the clubs up here, like. Send in your allocations. I don't think there was anything wrong with the request. I just think that, you know, we
I
made
just think
a
we should
reasonable
allow it,
decision
yeah.
here.
I
Yeah.
think that was that they expected the approval for that, right?
For one, I'm pretty sure they didn't know what the remaining amount was when they submitted the request.
Yeah.
And then on top of that is, my understanding is they do this like every year.
Yeah, right.
And so they the cost for this particular year is probably higher than, as it was mentioned, the Detroit next year would be. But the nature of a two-year institution is like those students might not be here next year, so they can't just plan on that.
Exactly.
So it's worth asking for as a thing if they do it every year specifically, even if the costs are high, but. It's just unfortunate that there's not more money to give out
Right.
to all the clubs and do all the things.
Well, like,
I love
That is
if
why we
they
have.
raise that part-time, you know, to $10, that could, make a big difference too.
I
I
love
love
it.
a lot of other things too, so I kind of hope that goes through. No offense to people that, disagree with that, but I do kind of hope that goes through.
I'd love to
Because,
send
I mean,
every
what is-
GRCC student.
In the
to
big
Hawaii.
scope of things, in 14 years, I think it's, only right that you should pay $5.
Yeah, looking, as I think you mentioned, some of the other campus activities, not campus activities, but fees included, like the technology fee, the records fee. The records fee is like $37, technology fees $24 per class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the $5 for activities on campus is not a whole lot. When you couple that in, all the other fees we're paying.
I pay more for McDonald's.
Absolutely.
And furthermore, like I get more out of the student food pantry in one visit than that $5.
Exactly, so that's benefiting, and
I
there's
was surprised.
that, there really is what was the latest statistic? 1 out of 5, student, food insecurity with, college students. That's a real fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that would be, a huge help to people that utilize that pantry to have more things available, for sure.
For sure.
I was surprised at how much food the pantry had, like how much you're allowed to
And-
eat.
And the price of food keeps getting higher and higher.
Yeah.
Food costs are getting higher, every day.
Full grocery bags. It's like $100
Right, you can't
groceries.
go wrong.
We had to increase if you remember our first meeting, we increased the food pantry's budget just because of the inflation.
Wow. Also, the food pantry does draw funding from multiple
Other
sources.
okay.
It's not just the campus activity. Corporate
Don't they get
donations.
donations?
There's a lot of donations. Yep. And then also there's funding.
Feeding America
from other
probably
areas.
donates.
Yes.
I'm sure the foundation, like GRCC Foundation also contributes, yeah.
Probably. I don't know where the other money comes from, but I know it's not just the $4,000 that we put in from the campus activities fee. It's
I don't think that'd be
drawn from
sustainable.
multiple sources.
There were some like fresh vegetables that were donated.
They do get a lot of donations and like this type of thing, when there's like a buffet like this, if there's leftover food, that also sometimes goes into the student food pantry, so.
I had a pregnant spider on one of the vegetables I got from the food bank.
Oh, wow. You know,
Pregnant spider.
It was big, so it was probably pregnant.
that's the nature of.
And it was in my fridge.
That happens. Sorry about that.
I did also have, I don't wanna take up too much time for this if anybody else has other questions, but I do have a question specifically regarding arts.
Regarding what?
Arts club.
Arts club, yeah, go for it.
So, basically, as you know, we've been planning painting a mural for some time now.
We got I got an email with all your submissions and all that.
Oh, did you? Okay, cool. And that was one of the first things we brought up, at the town hall, the first town hall meeting we came to, when we were requesting our allocations. And I remember you said that, it was the goal, it was someone's goal to have the first mural be in student life. Who did you hear that from exactly?
I don't remember anyone saying the first mural should be in student life, partly because we already had some murals on campus. I just know that we all are very big advocates for having student art in student life now that the remodel is done.
Okay.
And I think a mural is a really cool idea I'm in favor of. It might end up being that it just ends up being framed artwork for students in arts clubs.
Yeah.
It just depends on what we can get student life to agree on. And Ashley's in meetings talking about what exactly that's gonna look like.
Right.
But it's a bit too, unfortunately, it's a bit too big of a decision for us to make.
Right, no, I just wondered, that's why I was wondering who you heard that from, if you heard that from anyone, because I am running into some issues with that in terms of like, someone who's like higher up in, I don't know exactly what position he has, like,
Yeah.
he is more in favor of
Church
us
right
having
now.
campuses.
They have an open
like,
Yeah.
mural. And I know my
House,
membership
they do
is
like a-
really
It's like a
specifically
lunch
excited
or
about
dinner
the
and
mural.
discussion.
So I don't
And
know,
it's not like crazy
Have
religious or
you-
anything like that, but they talk
do you
about, you know,
know
like, different, you
anywhere
know,
else
issues
that
and
might,
rights and all kinds of stuff like that, if you guys
like,
are ever
might
interested.
permit a mural, or like
Yeah,
anybody
it's,
talked about,
yeah,
like,
it's, there's,
expressed
it's Kendall,
some
Aquinas,
interest
I
in
represent
having
DC, but there's,
something there.
I think it's like.
I know that the main problem that
Kelvin.
we're
yeah, there's a
having
lot
with
of-
getting a
Most of the
mural
local colleges.
is that apparently it has to
But
be
yeah, it's
like
like good,
majority.
conversation, good
student.
discussion, and usually people.
So-
So we would have to like.
Yep, and you get
send
to, you know, food's not bad either, so.
You might have to do like on
you.
the ground petition work,
out- Okay,
but like, I honestly, like, if you can get like. Thousands of signatures, you know, I don't know how they can argue with that reasonably, but. I mean, like, if you wanna know the truth, it's like, the mural is difficult for the student body to
okay, cause yeah, I did ask,
in any capacity, like, it's a tough. It's a
Yeah.
tough ask because, you know, you guys are 2-year students, most of you, and it's.
right,
And to have a permanent canvas is a really big ask, and there needs to be. I guess how it was explained to me is that there needs to be a really big demand and precedent for the students to want that as well.
okay, that's good
So-
to know, cause like I asked Raynard, I don't know if he responds to me yet, but like I asked him what his reservations on it were, and like how we might be able to alleviate
Right.
those concerns.
It's tough.
So, I mean, like, if that is what we need to do, then we'll definitely take steps to do that. Cause
And-
like, we want to see this happen, so like.
My understanding was that the walls were painted white so that we could turn it into like a gallery space.
Yeah.
Do things
Right.
with it. And then we started like, great, let's get smart in here. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah,
whoa. What?
Made them pump the brakes.
Right?
it's
Well,
about the same.
I think, yeah, we charged into this thinking we'd have art in there by now. And,
Mhm.
I'll definitely ask other people as well, cause like, I don't know if that's the only thing, like, we just need a majority student demand, or like a significant enough student demand.
It would certainly help. Like, I can't even promise the petition of 1,000 students engaged in the mural.
But it would help actually.
But I can't think of a single advisor or member of student life who would look at that and tell you no.
Well, that's good to know,
Unless there's some legal thing or board of trustees thing.
and I'll,
But
you know,
Do research, talk with Ashley, get a meeting with her,
yeah,
and see what you can do.
cause I mean, I'm sure we would definitely be open to like the hanging canvases too, but we've been really passionate about this mural specifically.
Oh,
So, you know, whatever we can do, like,
I thought a mural was the idea when we did the remodel.
yeah,
And that was what I was told, so I'm kind of there with you.
awesome. I'll definitely talk to Ashley and Rainer about this, and like see if there's anything we can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you.
I'd love to see some movement in part of the campus.
Yeah, because I mean, there has to be, I mean, like, clearly there's a mural there, so there has to be a process, right?
Yeah, and like Dr. Lepper said, there used to be a whole department for arts on campus that got discontinued.
Right,
So like, I wanna ask, like, how do we get that back?
yeah, exactly. So I'm very much with you on that.
Does anyone else have any last minute requests for student government? Or anything else that needs to be said?
Just thanks for the food.
No problem.
Take some with you.
Take some with you.
I also like to say, I think there should be more student art too.
Yeah,
I think that's definitely should be, you know, consider, maybe we can get it required.
There is the art department. I know.
as much food as y'all can carry came with you.
Again, maybe.
Thank you for joining us. See you in 2 weeks or not, if you have finals.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, if like, if that helps the whole process like that.
I think I'll be there.
Like, honestly, I'll tell you. It's like, it can't hurt, you know?
Yeah, it's Minster and.
I think it
Antonakis.
Yeah,
Yeah,
his name is hard to say.
I I asked him, he was one of the first people I asked to be our advisor.
And he said no.
Yeah, he's a guy, so.
Yeah.
It's hard to find